Okay, now that I'm on this scene and now that I'm finally here, I'm not just gonna say, I just want to pop a bottle. I ain't want to just do no stupid shit. I want to really leave people with a message that they can still remember, and that's why people still mess with me to this day. Because back then, songs like "Flossing" was songs that people still can hold on to. You know what I'm saying? Money Train.
Hope Mike John, hope where he been. On a day with them Benjamins and he ain't been back since. I swear. Used to sleep on the couch, now I'm couched up in a Bentley. Crawling up so gently. Money only thing on my mind, other shit don't offend me. Let them take my flow, I got more, I got plenty.
What up, guys? Your boy Quake, and I'm back with a brand new episode of What Happened To. But before we get into that, be sure to follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at QuakeGW. A link is in the description below for both. And like this video because I've been seeing a lot of YouTube videos get a lot of likes, and that helps their algorithm, gets the views up, so on and so forth. So leave a like, I'd really appreciate it. So this one has been requested since I started doing this What Happened To series. I started the series out with Chameleonaire, so it makes sense that people requested this artist because he's somewhat related to that artist and how they came up. And this artist is definitely someone that influenced the newer generation in a lot of different ways and is a Texas legend. As you guys can tell by the video title, I'm talking about who? Mike Jones. Wait. Who?
Mike Jones.
Now, Mike Jones is definitely something unique because he was an artist that gave out his personal phone number. Yes, back in the day, we didn't have social media. We couldn't connect to our favorite artists like we can now. But Mike Jones said, forget all that. I don't need any of that. Here's my direct phone number you can call me on, which was crazy at that time because nobody was doing that. On top of that, the reason why I really like Mike Jones is because he took a lot of negatives in his life and turned them into positives. You guys will see this as we go on in the video. Everything that he had negative in his life, man, he just flipped it and made it into something better and bigger, which gives hope to a lot of people, and it makes for an amazing story. So let's get into that story. We're going to talk about how he got into the music industry, then his prime, and then what he's up to right now. Mike Jones was born on November 18th, 1981, in Houston, Texas. As Mike Jones grew up, he wanted to become a professional basketball player for the NBA, but as time went on, that passion and dream slowly went away. And he slowly started getting more and more into music from influences in Houston, from Rap-A-Lot Records to DJ Screw, Scarface, UGK, basically anyone in Houston who was popping at that time. And Mike Jones eventually ended up dropping out of high school and immediately decided to work for some fast food restaurants. He ended up working at Jack in the Box, and that's when he says he started gaining a lot of weight because he would eat a lot of the food there.
Yeah, I used to work at Jack in the Box, and shit, I used to work there, took advantage of that, for real.
He didn't stay too long working at restaurants. He ended up working at a compact plant which made a bunch of cell phones, and he took those cell phones and sold them at a cheaper price to make money. Then he ended up getting more involved in music and formed a rap group called South Folk. He used the rap name Sashay at that time instead of Mike Jones as we know him now, and they ended up in 2001 dropping their album Country Thuggin'. Unfortunately, the album did not do that well, so Mike Jones decided to split ways from the group and go independent, and he ended up creating his own record label called Ice Age Entertainment and decided to pursue his own rap career solo. He ended up getting the attention of Michael Watts, who is the owner of Swishahouse Records, which is an independent label in Houston, Texas. They ended up signing Mike Jones, and with the help of Swishahouse, Mike Jones finally got to work and released his first mixtape called Ballin' Underground. And on this mixtape, he jumped on various artists' beats and actually made them chopped and screwed so that he could rap to them and so he could make his own unique sound and flow. Mike Jones said that he saw 50 Cent do the mixtape thing and it worked very well for him, so he just took that same formula and decided to try to build his buzz up with mixtapes.
Even like a 50, he was in a bigger city.
He was in New York, yeah.
Yeah, he was in a bigger city, but he still had to grind. It's not taken away from his grind. He still had to get out there and get it, but he was in a bigger city that more labels was at, more awareness. So when he was popping, it was bigger, and we still seen him do it from an independent front. So it's like, oh, how to rob? Oh, we doing that. We can do that. We can, you know what I'm saying? So it kind of let us know we still good. We still cool. And then when he blew, it was like, oh, it's about that time.
We can do this.
Yeah.
However, Mike Jones said that he was receiving a lot of hate when he tried to hand out his mixtapes to people. People would essentially clown him and say, "Who are you?" And one day he came home. His grandma noticed that he was really upset. She asked why, and he explained the story that every time he would hand out his CD, they would say, "Who are you?" And his grandma said, "You should embrace that, and people say, 'Who are you?' say Mike Jones, and stick with the rap name Mike Jones, which is actually his government name." On top of that, his grandma encouraged him to give out his phone number so that he could talk to his fans. It would make him unique and stand out from all other artists.
When you got 100 people that's putting you down and denying you and saying that you ain't imageable and you can't do this and do that, you get to a point where you start to believe them. But my grandmother was the one that was pushing and telling me I can do this and coming up with me giving out the phone number, me saying the who and the name and all that. And people thinking it's a gimmick, some think it's a marketing tool, but really it was just game that I got from my grandmother,
He ended up listening to what his grandma had to say, ran with the "Who is Mike Jones" thing, ran with the phone number thing, and decided to perform at every place that he could, went to strip clubs, handed out his CD to even the strippers. Everything that he could do to get his name out there, he did. And eventually he became a locally hot artist in Houston. So of course, Mike Jones naturally kept the music coming, and on February 25th, 2003, he dropped a collab project with Mango called First Round Draft Pick, and this was another project to help build his buzz. In that same year, Swishahouse as a label released a compilation album called The Day Hell Broke Loose 2. This was the follow-up to the original in 1999, but this version featured more current artists, such as Mike Jones. And on this project, there was a breakaway track that would forever change not only the label's life, but everyone on the label's life. And that track was called Still Tippin', with Mike Jones, Slim Thug, and Paul Wall. However, the original version of the Still Tippin' track featured Chamillionaire instead of Paul Wall and had a totally different beat. This version ended up leaking online later in 2004, and the reason why Chamillionaire never ended up on the final version was two reasons. Mike Jones and Paul Wall ended up having beef with him, and Chamillionaire ended up leaving Swishahouse and going to do his own thing with Universal Records. The original version of Still Tippin' is featured on a Rap-A-Lot Records compilation album called The Day After Hell Broke Loose. It was released on March 23rd, 2004, and Chamillionaire completely kills it. This is no disrespect to Paul Wall, but he does way better than Paul Wall does. And the one that everyone knows about, that one has a way better production than the original version. Since Still Tippin' ended up blowing up across the country, Swishahouse had a bunch of labels come to them wanting to sign with them. Swishahouse ended up ultimately signing with Asylum Records / Warner Brothers, and Mike Jones was under Swishahouse, so he ended up signing there as well. So now that Mike Jones has a major label backing him, he decided to keep promoting himself and released another mixtape in 2004 called Running the Game. Then the label decided to take the Still Tippin' track that was buzzing and use it as the lead single for Mike Jones's debut album. On November 12th, 2004, they officially released it as Mike Jones's track and the lead single off his debut album. The single ended up peaking at number 60 on the Billboard Hot 100 and went on to go platinum. So 1 million singles sold off the first track off your album. That's an amazing start. The label did not waste any time and immediately started pushing the second single. It got released on February 15th, 2005, and it was called Back Then. This single ended up becoming Mike Jones's highest charting solo single ever in his career. It peaked at number 22 on the Billboard Hot 100 and ended up going platinum. So off the rip, he has 2 platinum singles, and now they're focusing on releasing the album. Then just 2 months later, on April 19th, 2005, Mike Jones released his debut album, Who is Mike Jones? The album debuted at number 3 on the Billboard 200, selling 181,000 copies within its first week. And then just 2 months after its release, it ended up going platinum in America and eventually went on to sell well over 2 million copies worldwide. And my favorite tracks on this album are 5 years from now. I wish Mike Jones would have shot a music video for this because this track is very dope. Just the concept of it is nice. And I like What You Know About with Paul Wall. And of course, the singles Back Then, Flossin', and Still Tippin'. After this major success of his debut album, Mike Jones basically became a household name. Everyone was yelling, "Who, Mike Jones?" Everyone was getting grills in their mouth. Artists started making songs revolving around that, like Nelly with his track Grills. Everyone was following the Houston wave. And everyone, and I mean everyone, was calling that number that Mike Jones was rapping about in his songs, the 281-330-8004. Everyone was calling that. Mike Jones said he got about 40,000 to 50,000 calls a day, and I feel bad for the phone company that was providing that service because I'm sure their servers were getting destroyed.
In my prime, I said it was like 30, 40,000 calls a day.
A day.
But you gotta understand, I got YouTube video on YouTube that I can show you where it's showing me answer the phone for fans, and I'm asking them, what number did you just call? And they said the whole 281-330-8004.
Yeah.
But you gotta understand, it's just like a radio station. How many people try to call a radio station? Can everybody get in?
Yeah.
Man, I called a radio station, man, they'll never pick up. But you got somebody that got through. You got some that, you know, I gave the number out to the world, and the world was calling me at the same time.
And while being the hottest thing in music in 2005, he ended up getting featured on a lot of different artists' tracks. He ended up getting featured on the Ying Yang Twins track called Bad. It ended up peaking at number 29 on the Billboard Hot 100. He also appeared on Bow Wow's Fresh as I'm Is. That track ended up peaking at number 23 on the Billboard Hot 100. And this next track that he was featured on ended up becoming the highest charting song that he's ever been on. The track was called I'm in Love with the Stripper, T-Pain featuring Mike Jones. It peaked at number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100 and went platinum. That was the highest charting song that Mike Jones had ever been on. Even though it wasn't his single, it was still a great look. Before we continue on the video, I want to give a big shout out to Raycon for sponsoring today's video. If you're watching this video, you're more than likely a music fan and a hip hop fan, and we're constantly on the look for the best pair of earbuds that will complement our lifestyle and the type of music we listen to. Well, Raycon has an answer for that. Raycon just released their new latest model E25 True Wireless earbuds, and these things have blown my mind. This is a company founded by Ray J, and I love headphone companies that are founded by actual artists because they know what they want in sound, and Ray J nailed it. These things have amazing bass for hip hop and music. It's perfect. 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, and a more compact design that gives you a noise isolating fit. And I have big ass ears, man. I got elf ears. I can hear everything. When I put these in my ear, I can't hear nobody talking to me. And that says a lot because my ears are huge. Also, in the box comes 6 different gel tips to find the perfect fit for your ear. The gel tips that were on the earbuds fit me perfectly, which is rare because usually I have a hard time with the gel tip earbuds. The crazy thing about these is they come at half the price of any other premium wireless earbuds on the market. Instead of paying $150, $200 for some crazy wireless earbuds, these come at half that price, and they're way better sounding. And you get a lot of colors to choose from to fit your style. On top of that, Raycon is looking out and giving out 15% off your order when you use my link in the description box below, buyraycon.com/diverse mentality. So click the link in the description below, get 15% off your Raycon E25 True Wireless earbuds. And remember guys, when you support them, you're supporting me because these sponsorships helps these videos out a lot. So click the link in the description below, get yourself a pair. Thank you guys for your time. Let's continue with the video. Now, all of this happened in 2005 when he blew up. To keep the momentum going, in 2006, on February 26, 2006, he dropped the King of the Streets mixtape. So Mike Jones was ready to follow up his debut album immediately in 2006, but he started facing label issues, and this usually happens to a lot of artists, unfortunately. His plan was to release his second album called The American Dream. He even mentioned it on his debut album on the intro, to release it in 2006 and keep it going. But the music that Mike Jones presented to the label, they did not like and didn't agree with Mike Jones's direction. He, however, still managed to release the first single off the American Dream album on September 4th, 2006, called Mr. Jones. The track peaked at number 92 on the Billboard Hot 100, but unfortunately fell off after that. And that sucks because to me, it's my favorite Mike Jones track. The delivery, the production, everything about it, the story, the music video even is dope. It's Mike Jones before he was famous and Mike Jones after him becoming a CEO, a boss. The concept of it was all dope. It's very unfortunate that this track didn't perform that well. Also around this time, Mike Jones ended up leaving the Swishahouse label and got his own label deal for Ice Age Entertainment, signed with the distribution deal of Asylum Records / Warner Brothers. Nothing more happened in 2006 for Mike Jones's music. Then in 2007, on April 21st, 2007, he dropped the second single off the American Dream project called My Six Foe, featuring Bun B and Snoop Dogg. The track unfortunately did not chart on the Billboard Hot 100 at all, but it did peak at number 22 on the US Hot Rap Songs. And once again, I'm surprised because I really enjoyed this track. This is another one of my favorite Mike Jones tracks. Everyone delivers everything on it, and the music video is very dope. Due to the poor performance of the first two singles, the label kept pushing the album back. The initial release was March 20th, 2007, but got pushed back to May, then July, then August, then September, and then finally on October 2nd, 2007, Mike Jones dropped his second project, The American Dream. But because of the poor performance, the label did not want to release it as a full-length album. They wanted it released as an EP only. The EP featured a full-length movie on it as well for a limited edition that people bought, but that didn't do much for the sales because the project only ended up peaking at number 183 on the Billboard 200, but it peaked at number 10 on the top rap albums chart. And it's unfortunate once again because I really liked this EP. It had another track on there that I liked called Turning Heads, but that track didn't perform well either. But the EP had 3 tracks that were really dope. Like I said, Turning Heads, My Six Foe, and Mr. Jones. So I'm surprised it didn't perform the way that it should have. Then quite a few months went by, and on November 27th, 2007, Mike Jones dropped the first single off his upcoming album called Drop and Give Me 50, featuring Hurricane Chris. The track did not chart on the Billboard Hot 100 at all, but peaked at number 18 on the US Hot Rap Tracks. Mike Jones wanted to build up buzz for his next album, so after releasing that single just a month later on December 18, 2007, he dropped a new mixtape called Running for President 2K8. Then in 2008, Mike Jones was facing more label problems, but while he was facing those problems, he decided to rebrand himself so that when he comes out with his second album, he'll have a totally different look. When he first came out in 2005, he was a very chubby individual, so he decided to lose well over 100 pounds and got rid of his grills. So entering 2008, he had a new image and decided to give his fans a new mixtape called Self-Made on March 18th, 2008. Finally, Mike Jones and the label got on the same page, and on May 19th, 2008, he dropped the second single from his new album called Cuddy Buddy, and it featured Trey Songz, Lil Wayne, and Twista, but it had T-Pain on a different version that ended up on the album. And this song actually performed very well for Mike Jones. The song peaked at number 76 on the Billboard Hot 100. And I remember when the Cuddy Buddy music video came out, everyone saw Mike Jones's new transformation of him losing weight, losing the grills, and overall having a different image. And there was rumors going around that Mike Jones was actually doing crack, and that's why he lost all that weight. Obviously, it was false. Mike Jones was just working out, because if he was doing crack, he would have been not even making music. He would have been doing something completely different and fallen off the face of the earth. But because people didn't see him in the public and they thought that he fell off, that was the assumption. And during 2008, Mike Jones actually got into some trouble and into some beef with Trey the Truth, and they actually ended up getting into a fight. So while he was focusing on his music, he ended up having a beef to deal with. Regardless, he kept the music coming, and on December 2nd, 2008, he dropped the third single off his new album called Next to You, and this song ended up peaking at number 71 on the Billboard Hot 100. With those 3 singles out, Mike Jones was finally ready to release his second studio album. The album was called The Voice and was released on April 28th, 2009. It debuted at number 12 on the Billboard 200 and sold 25,000 copies within its first week, and as of now, it's sold over 200,000 copies in the United States. And this was a far cry from his debut album that ended up selling well over 2 million copies worldwide. But Mike Jones ain't fully to blame for this. Mike Jones revealed that the singles Cuddy Buddy and Next to You were recorded way back in 2006, and if the label had let Michael Jones release those as singles in 2006 like he originally planned and put it on the American Dream album like he had promoted, I feel like these singles would have done way better because he would have been coming off of the crazy buzz from his debut album. Plus the song Cuddy Buddy had T-Pain on it, and Mike Jones and T-Pain had a smash hit with I'm in Love with the Stripper in 2005, so that would have just played well if they would have released that single right after the success of that other single. So it's kind of crazy to see how things panned out. I mean, he released his next album 4 years later. That's a huge gap to try to come back from.
First album we came out, we sold 2 million records, out the gate, Who was Mike Jones, double plat on them boys, In 2006, I was ready to come out and do it again with the American Dream. I was gonna do the American Dream movie and American Dream album with Cuddy Buddy on that album, with Next to You on that album, and Mr. Jones and all the other songs that y'all done heard. Mr. Jones wasn't supposed to be a single, it was supposed to be a single for the soundtrack, not a single for my solo album. But a lot of people didn't like Cuddy Buddy back then. They didn't like Next to You back then. So when I seen that they didn't have the same vision I had then and didn't have the same enthuse in the music like I did, I held on to my records and I let them put out the EP and the soundtrack because I still wanted the fans to still get a visual of how I came to live the American Dream. I wasn't able to do the album how I wanted to, but I still wanted to give them a visual. So I held on to these records, and in that time of going through politics with them, I was like, man, you know what, I got time now. I can start working on my health and my image. I started, hitting the treadmill, and I started substituting fat foods for Subway. And next thing you know, the weight started going off, I was huge. I was 295 pounds. But since my records weren't able to come out with the vision I had at the time, I didn't know that a person's personal opinion could shut down my whole machine. And when that happened, that made me take 4 years away from being from the screen. And people was like, oh, Mike Jones, he a one-hit wonder. Oh, Mike Jones, he only made that, he can't make no more. But really, I had Cuddy Buddy and Next to You ready to go, you know what I'm saying?
After this, Mike Jones started facing more problems from his label, and in 2010, he was gearing up to drop his third studio album, Expect the Unexpected, but after releasing a single called So Hot with VIC, the label wasn't feeling it. He wasn't feeling his label. He was having more and more issues, and then eventually he requested that he be released from the label. He actually ended up getting that release in the summer of 2010, and even though he didn't release a mixtape or an album, he still ended up working with a couple of artists. He actually looked out for an upcoming Houston artist by the name of Slick Watts. He ended up getting on that track. It was called Danger. He did the music video for it as well, but that was about it. Mike Jones was trying to figure out the next situation he was going to get into with a label and figure out what the next project is going to be. Then in 2011, he somehow faced more problems with his former label that he was signed to, which was Asylum Records. They ended up keeping a lot of money from him from his debut album sales and his second album sales, and had to deal with trying to get that money from them. On top of that, his former accountant didn't take care of his taxes properly, so he had to deal with that as well by hiring a new team of people and making sure everything was right. So in 2011, he did not release any new music, but he did announce that he's working on his new album called Where Is Mike Jones?
Because for one, I knew what I blew up and sold, and I knew what was on the way. And I knew what was gave to me, and I knew what was supposed to be given to me. And I knew when a lawsuit came, I knew what froze up what was mine. So I knew I was good. I just didn't know that this was going to hit me this fast, and these people who I showed love to was not going to show love back. My first album sold what people never sold in life. You know what I'm saying? So they never seen the checks that I was fighting for. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was paid half of that. You know what I'm saying? I got a different team. I got a different strategy. I got a different game plan from who to where, back everywhere. Waiting on the rest of it all to come in, you know what I'm saying? But until the end, I'm chilling, I'm good.
Then in early 2012, he released the first single off the upcoming album called Leaning on That Butter, and the reception was pretty good because it brought back that original Houston sound, that original Mike Jones sound. But ultimately, Mike Jones that whole year didn't really release much music once again. In 2013, though, finally things would start to change and Mike Jones would start dropping music. In early 2013, Mike Jones and Michael Watts, who is the CEO of Swishahouse, came together and did an interview. After they blew up, Mike Jones and Swishahouse ended up parting ways after Mike Jones's debut album. And they said it was because of a bunch of politics. They couldn't talk to each other because the major labels were getting in the way of them communicating and handling business the way they wanted to. So as the years went on and Mike Jones left Asylum Records, Swishahouse also went independent. Him and Michael Watts ended up becoming friends again, and they announced that they will be working again on music like they did before. And then they announced that they're releasing the Ballin' Underground Part 2 mixtape.
Actually, personally, me and Watts, we always been A1. And that's why we able to be here now, because we always personally been cool. I think as we both started blowing up mainstream and commercially, you know what I'm saying, it got real political, you know what I'm saying, because we got with another corporate person, you know what I'm saying, and we had to wait that out and get through all that, and now we back to the music and back to what grew us to that point, you know what I'm saying, 10 years ago, 10 years later.
And just as promised, on October 31st, 2013, Mike Jones drops the follow-up mixtape from his debut mixtape, Ballin' Underground, and he called it Back Ballin' Underground. And my favorite track on this mixtape is where he's spitting over the 2 Chainz Riot track with Slim Thug. They both killed it. Then in 2014, Mike Jones announced a new label that he created called Money Train. And on this label, he signed a bunch of artists and decided to announce that he's going to release a compilation mixtape with him and his new artists. He dropped the first single for the mixtape called 3 Grams, featuring Slim Thug and Young Deuce. Then on January 1st, 2015, he dropped a new mixtape called Money Train, which was to promote the album and his upcoming artists. And it actually got pretty good positive reviews, a lot of downloads, and people were back interested in Mike Jones's music and what he was doing. But of course, if you don't have that major label push, a lot of the music gets slept on regardless. And that Money Train project would be the last full-length project that we would get from Mike Jones. In 2016, Mike Jones would once again make headlines, but for the wrong reason. An article ended up publishing a fake story about Mike Jones having a human trafficking situation going on. And this fake news spread like wildfire online, so much so that Mike Jones had to come out at a local Houston news station and clarify that he does not have a human trafficking ring.
You have had to deal with this, Mike Jones. A fake news article came out saying that you have gone from a chart-topping music artist, rapper, actor here in the city of Houston and around the country to a pimp. So how do you deal with that?
Man, like, it's hard to fight a rumor, you know what I'm saying, especially when you know it ain't true. You know, you just gotta, you know, just let the truth eventually come out, you know, and we nothing but have respect for the women, so we will never do nothing like that, you know what I'm saying?
Despite not releasing a full project in these upcoming years, Mike Jones still was working on music. He actually went on various radio stations in 2017, 2018, and 2019 to clarify what he's doing and what he's been up to. And he said he's recorded a lot of music with his own artists on Money Train and said that he wants to prepare to release them at the right time.
Crazy is we've been rocking for a long time, and we really were just developing the music. Because again, I love the game. I respect the game.
Right.
It ain't just, oh, I can just upload it now? Mike Jones just woke up and doing 3,000 songs a month. He just took it over crazy. No, I respect the game. I'm still not going to come out until it makes sense, until it's right. because I respect y'all, I respect myself. So we been building, got over 300-400 records ready to go.
Regardless, though, without releasing a full project, he still dropped a couple singles throughout the years. Like on May 2016, he dropped a track called Step Out featuring Dero and Deuce Money Train. Then on August 2016, he dropped another single called Treat You Right. Then on September 2017, he dropped a track called The Sauce, which I think is the best track he's released in a long time. If you're going to check out some of the new music, check that one out. Then he released another track in May of 2018 called Rings. Then just a couple months later, on July 2018, he released another single called Young King, as well as a track called All On Me. Then in May of 2019, he dropped a new single called Vibe With Me. And what he said his plan is to obviously stack music and then drop the Where Is Mike Jones album when he's ready, which I agree, take your time because there's no rush. He says he has a lot of track songs with him and Chamillionaire, which I would love to hear. He clearly still has a passion for the music because he created a whole new label and has a bunch of artists on that label, so clearly that's not gone. What I think he should do is sign a distribution deal with a major label, again, just so he can be more in the public eye. And labels nowadays are a lot more lenient and accepting of different kinds of music. Back in 2005, when Mike Jones was facing those label issues, most of the music that was popping at that time was gangsta music, so I kind of understand why the label didn't want to go more the female/pop route with Mike Jones. But ultimately, Mike Jones was right because nowadays a lot of the music is like that, and that gangsta music has died down a little bit. Each episode that I do on these artists that kind of like disappear from the limelight, 90% of them tend to have issues with their label, and their label is stopping them from dropping the music that they want to release. And it sucks because if Mike Jones would have followed up in 2006 with what he had originally planned, he would have done so much better in terms of his career music. And the general audience doesn't understand the behind the scenes of the music industry. They just see an artist disappear and all of a sudden say, oh, he fell off, he's not doing his thing anymore. But there's a lot of things behind the scenes with labels that control the artist's music. But nowadays, thankfully, because of the internet, the artist has a lot more control. So that's it for this episode of What Happened To. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think. Are you guys a huge fan of Mike Jones when he came out? What is your favorite track from him? What is your favorite album? Like I mentioned earlier, I love 5 Years From Now, and I love Mr. Jones. Those two tracks are probably my favorite from him. Also, which Houston artists did you like the most that were blowing up around that time in 2005? Because a lot started blowing up. Chamillionaire, Mike Jones, Paul Wall, Slim Thug, all these artists from Houston were just taking off. So yeah, leave a comment below. I'll definitely check it out. With that being said, if you want to support the channel further, you can do so at patreon.com/diverse mentality. For just $1 a month or more, you can help support this channel further. A link is in the description below. Like, comment, share, and definitely subscribe. I do videos like this daily on hip-hop news and much more, so definitely subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at QuakeGW. Like us on Facebook, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.